Right, very little watering to do today. There was the 3 Rhinantheras to put into soak, and the Vandas. One's done, the other one's half done. So I have to do this half at a time. Let's actually add long enough, and then I turn it over that way and do the other half because it's too big to go in like that. So that was that. But what we discovered, this was yesterday, I discovered when we watered the Cattleyas, that dead sheath had a lump in it. So I cut the top and just pulled it apart with my fingers, and we've got some buds in there, a little cluster. Now that's my red Cattleya, my only red Cattleya. I say, they've always said there's not a lot of red in here, but I didn't expect that to bloom, quite honestly, because of the disturbance, getting it out of the old media, sorting the roots out and repotting it. I wasn't expecting that sheath to actually be productive, but it is. We do have, I think that's just an old one. Yeah, that's an old flower spike in there. But anyway, we do have some buds, and in addition to that, that looks awfully like a flower spike coming up the side of that. That's my Pabstia, the one that's the relative to the zygos. But that looks like a spike, I think. It's unlikely to be a new growth halfway up, is it? So I think that's a spike as well. So that was some new discoveries when watering yesterday. Not much else going on out here in the way of buds. The Dendrobium infundibulum the buds are coming on. They're swelling up, especially that one on the far side there. That one's going to be open soon. And then these 2 will follow on. So, and they'll last 2.5 to 3 months. You know, they're going to last for ages. So we've got those to look forward to, and not much else new at the moment. Just waiting really for the rest of the dendrobiums to do their thing. But it's a bit early. I mean, we've had a look at the nobiles, and some of those are doing their thing. But there's quite a few of the others aren't yet, and there'll be a while. Things like Nestor, you know, and those along those lines. There'll be a while yet. And the Kaneko hasn't actually bloomed for some time. I'd like to see some buds on that soon. I mean, it's had an enormous amount of clusters on the old leafless canes, and I've got a feeling they've sort of exhausted themselves now, and the buds are now not going to come until the latest canes that I've grown actually become leafless. Ones like this, and this one, and over here, that's one I've grown. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of new growths on this, but we're waiting for last year's and the year before's to become leafless, I think, before that's going to bloom again. But it grows well, you know, it's happy. So yes, so there we go. Not much going on. It's just that quiet time. But quietly, things are starting to move. I've just watered Derek's little plants down there, and several have got tiny little new growth showing. So you know, things are coming on. I haven't filmed anything on the bird feeder today, but what's better than a robin on your bird feeder? 2. The robin is a pair. There are 2 of them, and they were on the table at the same time earlier today. It's actually sat on the fence at the moment. But I moved, so he's gone now. And also we've had 1 great tit and 1 blue tit on the hanging feeder, and I think one of them's just been there now, because there's not a breath of wind out there, and it's waggling around, so I think we've just had a visitor. So yes, so out of the 4 tits that I'm liable to get, we've now had 3 of them. The cold tit, I'm sure, will be a visitor at some point. And we may be really, really, really lucky and get a marsh tit or a willow tit, but I doubt it. Not in an area like this. But yeah, out of the 4 I'm liable to get, we've had 3 of them. The sparrows still haven't been down. I'm surprised, Blackbird visits quite regular, robin visits regular. The long-tailed tits didn't appear today. They were here yesterday in force. I think that was because they have 2 broods a year, sometimes 3 in a really good year, and the last brood stay with the parents as a winter group, and sometimes family groups will join together to form a decent sized flock. Well, that flock yesterday was 6, so that could have been 4 youngsters and the parents. It could have been 6 youngsters and the parents have left them to get on with it, but they do often form little flocks in the winter. And then you don't see them so much in the summer. They go off and do their nesting thing. But yeah, there's it's the finches that are lacking at the moment. I've had flocks of goldfinches in the big conifer tree up the top there, you know, like dozens. But I haven't seen them up there for a few days now. They tend to go up there when it's nice and sunny. What I think the flocks do is they move around. You know, they try different areas and then they come back round again. So we may get the finches. I've heard green finches, but I haven't actually seen them. So the other finches that are possible to get, although unlikely, well, we'll wait and see. Chaffinches used to be a really common garden bird. Not so much now. They're disappearing. They're declining badly. Nobody really knows why. It's not really habitat because they are a sort of garden and suburbia type of bird, and you know, there's people put out feeders to help with the birds, especially in the winter, so it's difficult to work out why. And I could get a bullfinch if they're around, but my shopping comes on Tuesday, and in the shopping on Tuesday I've got 2 more dangly feeders. One will have sunflower hearts, and that's specifically for the finches, and the other one will have peanuts, and that's not for the squirrels. But the nuthatch will use the peanuts, and so will the blue tits and great tits. So an assortment. There'll be 3 hangers now instead of just 1, so there'll be choices. And as I said, if it really takes off, then I'll get another stand type feeder. You know, it's just a pole with some hooks on the top, and put that sort of in a different place with some extra feeders on. But it depends what sort of volume of birds I get. I mean, at the moment, it's only just starting. The ones that have found the food, once it becomes a habit for them and they visit every day, other birds will see them do it and join in. They'll wonder why there is a gathering and come down to have a look, sort of thing, because they'll assume food, and they'll assume correctly. But yeah, so 2 more visitors today to add to the list. I mean, I was going to write down the list of every visitor I get, but quite honestly I don't need to, because I know roughly what I'm going to get, and in my mind I'm just ticking them off as they turn up. We might get something different, you know, something unusual. The odd finches that could turn up are bramblings and siskins, but siskins tend to flock with greenfinches in the winter months, and the greenfinches aren't around, not in a flock anyway, so maybe not. But and bramblings are in an area not too far away from here. It's a nature reserve with some lakes. They did some gravel extraction and the lakes have become, well, one of them's a boating lake and the others have become nature reserves. You know, they planted reed beds around them. There's bird hides. You can go and tuck yourself away in there for hours waiting for something to turn up. But there are bramblings there, and as the bird flies, that's about 2 miles, no, 3, might even be a bit more than that. So it's too far for them to travel on a daily basis, but you know, it's not like they're a million miles away. But maybe some will turn up. If a brambling turns up, it will be the first one I've ever seen for real. I've seen lots of pictures and lots of film, but I've never actually seen one for myself. Anyway, that's it for today. I'm back on my feet to a degree. I'm not running races or seeing how fast I can go up and down the stairs. We're not doing anything silly, but I went to the shop yesterday afternoon, and by the time I got back my ankle ached a bit, but not enough to stop me doing it again, if you see what I mean. So yeah, I'm back up and running. I would be happy to drive now, but I say it twinges more now when I don't do anything. Like if I sit down and fall asleep in the chair in front of the TV, when I go to stand up, it twinges. Whereas if I'm walking around and sitting sometimes and getting up again sometimes, it seems okay. It just seems to not like being still in one place. Anyway, at least it's up and running. That could have been so much worse. I thought about that and sort of went into a bit of a cold sweat as to how bad that could have been. That could have been a broken ankle, and I'm on my own out here. You know, my family aren't that close anymore, and I wouldn't be able to drive. So suddenly I'm sort of isolated. That sort of kicked in. You know, I can get food delivered, and I've got a next door neighbour who's volunteered help anytime I need it. So not totally isolated, but yeah. I mean, I could have bashed my head or anything coming down the stairs, but we got away lightly. Yeah, so we have to be grateful for these little things. I mean, it could get to the point where I'm old enough where I don't bounce anymore. I've always been a bouncer. When I fall or when I stumble, I bounce. You know, when I used to go skiing a lot, I went some right perlers at speed and just bounced. Nothing was ever hurt. Nothing was ever broken. I've never broken anything. But as one gets older, that does change. The next thing I'm going to do, now that it's stopped raining, I'm going to go out in the shed and see if I can find the media components to do the pinguiculars, because the one I split before these 4 little plants have taken off. They're actually firm again now, because they were all loose and floppy when they were planted. They weren't very happy. But the rosette is progressing on all 4 of them. They've all taken, and we need to get these done before they die, because they're probably in the same state that those were in, mud. These two, that was a large plant, and the main plant just died off and left 2 of the side shoots. Very reluctant to bloom, this one. This has got the thin leaves, and I mean, look, they're not even in anything. They're just hanging. They need doing. And then that will split into 3. That means I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll have 9 pinguiculars to dot around the place. And hopefully this year they will grow on into nice sized plants once they get their roots in some new media. So I'm hoping to do that later today. I'll film it, and perhaps that can be tomorrow's video. There might not be a video on Saturday. I've got an Orchid Society meeting in the afternoon. I will take the camera and I will try and film the plants that people bring in. I will try and do that. But now that I'm treasurer, for an amount of the meeting I'm grounded. I have to sit at the table and people come up because they're a nuisance. They want to pay things, you know. And of course I've got to write everything down, what comes in, so that it can be accounted for and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so we'll see what we can do, but I'm going to try and find the media components and get on with these. I've got the pots, so that's not an excuse. I got my silver sand when we went to look at the bonsai tree in the wild, so I can add that in this time. I've got the peat, and I've got the grit to mix in and to put on the top to keep the crowns, stop them staying soggy in the sort of peat part. So I think I'll try and get on with that today. Anyway, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.